It's clear we're not getting all the information. It's clear something's off here.
I forgive him.
Jaguar Wright just blew the internet sky high with one of her most fearless rants yet. And she's not holding back about the shocking death of Charlie Kirk. In a jaw-dropping live stream, she ripped through what she called massive holes in the official narrative and then turned the heat directly on Kirk's widow, Erica, with no hesitation at all. Jaguar dissected Erica's every public move, claiming her sudden online silence and her glossy, almost corporate statements didn't look like grief. They looked like strategy. She said point blank that Erica's behavior screams something's off, and that alone should make the public demand answers. But Jaguar wasn't content to leave it at family drama. She zoomed out, suggesting there's a bigger power game at work that nobody wants to name, and according to her, this wasn't just some random act of violence. She hinted at foreign players, powerful donors, or even secret political motives tied to Kirk's outspoken stances on Israel, Gaza, and other global flashpoints. She accused the mainstream press of burying those angles under a feel-good headline, selling the public a neat little story while ignoring who might really benefit from silencing him. Explosive doesn't even begin to cover it. Jaguar even called out major media outlets by name, saying they're airbrushing Kirk's most controversial takes to shift the focus away from the real motive for his assassination. She demanded that everything be released, and surveillance tapes, call logs, the full timeline before the shooting, insisting that the truth is hiding in plain sight, and the public is being played.
The first person, the old man, I don't even know why he was grabbed, but he was grabbed and his picture was fondled out. And then there was someone else who was a person of interest. And that didn't work. And then we got this guy.
Her words didn't just spark a conversation, they detonated across the internet like a bomb. What Jaguar delivered wasn't just commentary, it was pure gasoline on a fire already raging out of control. Fans flooded comment sections and started reposting the footage before it disappeared. And just when people thought it couldn't get hotter, it did. In a now deleted video that's being re-uploaded nonstop, Jaguar doubled down, shredding the official version of events and dragging Erica Kirk right back into the spotlight. She claimed Erica's emotional public speech after her husband's death didn't sound like heartbreak at all. It sounded like a rehearsed performance, a statement built to hit precise talking points, almost like Erica was speaking for somebody else. Then came the moment that set social media ablaze. Erica's repeated mention of they. Jaguar zeroed in on that word, asking out loud, who exactly is they? Was Erica tipping off hidden enemies, political operatives, or darker forces working in the shadows? Jaguar said the vagueness reeked of secrets, pressure, and cover-ups, and she didn't stop at the language. She blasted Erica for steering clear of personal memories and raw details about her husband, instead leaning into broad, political-sounding lines that felt totally staged. To Jaguar, that wasn't the voice of a grieving widow.
We've been talking about this. When we watched the impact, it wasn't like this. It was like this. It went straight through. And we saw it, and then we saw the gouge, and then we saw the spill, and we saw the slump.
It was the voice of someone reading from a script, maybe under duress or acting as the mouthpiece for others. With that jaw-dropping breakdown, Jaguar didn't just spark chatter. She blew the lid off a full-blown hornet's nest. The questions she raised are now ricocheting across every corner of social media, and each replay of Erica's speech feels like a brand new breadcrumb leading to a deeper, darker puzzle that no one saw coming. Jaguar Wright didn't just throw out wild guesses, she's aiming straight at forces way bigger than a lone gunman. Was Charlie Kirk really just the unlucky target of some random shooter like officials insist? Or did his fiery politics, his long list of global enemies, and his fearless callouts of powerful interests put an unmistakable bullseye on his back? In that now vanished video, Jaguar didn't merely tease questions, she dismantled the official story detail by detail. She zeroed in on the type of ammunition used, hammering home that bullets like those should have produced a dramatic, visible spray of blood. Yet, according to her, none of the available footage or eyewitness accounts show anyone behind Kirk splattered, even though people were seated right in the direct line of fire.
There's a couple other content creators that were making an assertion that there was some kind of device just under Charlie's shirt. We were talking, and you had said that you could see like there was some kind of movement that happened underneath his shirt right before the entry.
To Jaguar, that eerie absence screamed louder than any witness, hinting the scene might not be the scene the public was told it was. But then came the real bombshell. Jaguar turned her gaze on Erica Kirk herself. She didn't just question Erica's grief, she dropped a grenade, suggesting Charlie's widow might not be who she appeared to be at all. Jaguar floated the theory that Erica could have been an intelligence plant embedded in Charlie's life to keep tabs on him, steering his words and actions to fit hidden agendas. Explosive doesn't even start to describe it. Jaguar painted a spine-chilling picture. As long as Charlie stayed on script, the machine purred along smoothly. But the moment he pushed back, criticizing policies, exposing shady alliances, stepping into no-go territory, that invisible safety net vanished. Suddenly, the same system that once shielded him could have flipped the switch and decided he was expendable. In Jaguar's telling, this wasn't a random tragedy at all, that it was a calculated takedown engineered by forces far larger than any one person. She framed Erica not as a broken widow, but as a player sitting right in the center of that shadowy board game. Jaguar even tore into Erica's memorial speech, saying, "You don't live with a man for years and then sound like you're reading a script."
The first person, the old man, I don't even know why he was grabbed, but he was grabbed and his picture was fondled out. And then there was someone else who was a person of interest. And that didn't work. And then we got this guy. He had a bulletproof vest that might have caught the exit, really? That's interesting. That's definitely an interesting point of view.
At his funeral, unless there's a much bigger story behind it. Jaguar didn't present receipts to prove these jaw-dropping claims, but the combination of forensic questions, the missing blood spatter, and her bombshell theory about Erica's secret role has already sent shockwaves tearing through social media. People aren't just debating the shooting anymore. They're breaking down every frame, every word, every pause like it's a crime scene. Jaguar Wright's accusations didn't just stir conversation, they triggered a full-on social media meltdown. Within hours of her deleted video being clipped, reposted, and dissected, hashtags tied to Charlie and Erica Kirk were trending worldwide, with millions of users weighing in on what's now being called the intelligence plant theory. At the heart of this digital firestorm is one burning question. Was Erica truly a devastated widow caught in the crossfire of tragedy? Or, as Jaguar Wright alleged, was she deliberately placed in Charlie's world to watch, guide, and maybe even control him until the bitter end? That single claim lit a fuse that refuses to die out. And the fallout is snowballing by the hour. Clips of Jaguar repeating that Erica's memorial speech sounded like a script are looping non-stop across TikTok and Instagram Reels. Side-by-side edits now plaster Erica's words over slow zooms, ominous soundtracks, and flashing captions screaming things like, "Who was she really working for?" and "planted from day one." Some creators are even dissecting her body language frame by frame, pointing to her stiff posture, the absence of visible tears, and her repeated use of the word "they" instead of naming names. To Jaguar supporters, those weren't slip-ups, they were signs. The frenzy has split the internet right down the middle. On one side, critics argue Jaguar is spiraling, exploiting grief for attention. They defend Erica's composure, claiming her calm and polished tone was the choice of a woman holding herself together in front of cameras while mourning privately. As one viral post with thousands of likes put it, "Not every widow has to cry on command." Pain doesn't always look the way people expect, but on the flip side, Jaguar's believers are digging in deep, combing through every syllable, every gesture, every snapshot of Charlie and Erica's life together. One Twitter thread that's now hit over 20,000 retweets claims Erica's past is filled with unexplained gaps. Long stretches between jobs, resumes with vague titles like consultant or strategic advisor, and connections to circles tied to political donors and defense contractors. Whether those dots connect or not, the internet is convinced that Erica wasn't just a spouse, she was a handler. Then came the chilling twist. Screenshots allegedly showing Erica at conferences tied to foreign policy groups and elite think tanks. Nothing concrete has been confirmed, but the speculation alone is fueling millions of views. A TikTok nearing 2 million plays overlays her event photos with captions reading, "This isn't your average suburban wife." The implication? Erica's world stretched far beyond dinner parties and PTA meetings. Meanwhile, Reddit has turned into a battlefield of theories. In one conspiracy subreddit, a post racking up thousands of upvotes argues that Charlie's sudden shift in tone over the past year had Schalzer, especially his sharp critiques of US alliances, didn't look organic at all. To them, it looked like the defiance of a man breaking out of control. According to this angle, Erica wasn't his comfort. She was his guardrail. And once Charlie stopped towing the invisible line, the system around him allegedly flipped the switch. It sounds ripped straight from a spy thriller, but Jaguar's followers swear the puzzle pieces snapped together too perfectly to dismiss. They point to Erica's smooth memorial speech, her vague use of they, and her refusal to show raw emotion as proof she was performing, not grieving. As one TikTok creator with hundreds of thousands of likes put it, "You don't stand at your husband's funeral sounding like a press secretary unless you're protecting something." The pressure is crushing Erica from every direction. Once praised as the picture of calm dignity, she's now being painted as cold, robotic, and maybe even complicit in something far darker. Every single sighting turns into speculation. Why hasn't she broken down in public? Why hasn't she fired back at Jaguar's accusations? And why does she keep leaning on phrases like, "We will carry forward," instead of raw, personal lines like, "I will honor him"? To skeptics, her restraint feels icy. To Jaguar's loyalists, it feels scripted. But it isn't just Erica under fire. Jaguar herself is catching heat too. Critics are ripping into her for throwing out explosive allegations without dropping any receipts. One viral Instagram reel bluntly demanded, "Where are the receipts?" Others accuse her of hijacking Charlie's tragedy to pump up her brand and rack in views. Yet, even her harshest critics admit one thing: her breakdown of the ammo, the missing blood spray, and the timeline inconsistencies was sharp enough to plant seeds of doubt in thousands of already suspicious minds. That's the dangerous edge of Jaguar's voice. Even when people call her reckless, they cannot stop repeating her words. Every attempt to discredit her only spreads the claims further. Every clapback drags more eyes to her clips, and with every repost, the speculation spins harder and faster. Impossible to reel back in. The longer Erica stays silent, the louder the noise becomes. Some argue her silence is class and that she's too dignified to jump into the mud. Others insist it screams guilt, that she's hiding behind polished statements because the truth would expose too much. Either way, her refusal to respond has created a vacuum, and the internet is filling it with wild theories stacked on top of each other. Suddenly, Charlie's death isn't just framed as a tragedy, it's being rewritten as the final act of a political thriller, with Erica cast in the starring role, and Charlie's own legacy? That's caught in the storm too. Jaguar blasted the mainstream press for airbrushing his controversial takes after his passing, accusing them of rewriting his legacy to erase the very views that, in her mind, might have made him a target. Now, with the intelligence plant theory spreading like wildfire, every replay of Charlie's fiery speeches is being treated like a piece of evidence. To Jaguar's believers, his words weren't just hot takes, they were warnings that powerful forces couldn't let him keep shouting into the world. The result is a complete shift in narrative. Social media isn't just mourning Charlie anymore, it's dissecting his death like a true crime mystery, with the widow, the media, and even geopolitics cast as suspects. As far-fetched as Jaguar's claims sound to some, the sheer number of people debating them has given her theory legs of its own. It's not just Jaguar driving the story anymore. It's millions of digital detectives who believe they're cracking open secrets the mainstream refuses to touch. And that's the scandal that can't be undone. Once a theory like this hits the internet, it's uncontainable. Whether Erica was simply a grieving partner or something far more complex, her image is forever altered. To some, she'll always be remembered as the widow who never broke. To others, she's stamped as the handler who slipped up. And in the ruthless court of public opinion, both labels are damning in their own way. Jaguar Wright may have yanked her video offline, but the bomb had already gone off, and there's no stuffing the shrapnel back into the shell. The questions she planted are burning through the internet like wildfire, and no polished statement or emergency press conference can shove that genie back in its bottle. From here on out, every step Erica takes will be scrutinized, every word replayed, every pause filled with suspicion. And Charlie's death? It can never again be treated as simple, not when millions are convinced the truth is still lurking in the shadows. Jaguar Wright supporters aren't just casual fans, they're hailing her as a truth teller, someone bold enough to speak what others only dare whisper. They see her peeling back layers of a cover-up while critics blast her for pouring gasoline on a fresh wound, warning that her claims risk spiraling into dangerous disinformation at a time when the public is still raw with grief. But Jaguar isn't blinking. She's doubling down, insisting the official story of Charlie Kirk's shooting isn't just riddled with holes. It's a stage-managed illusion built to mislead from day one. According to Jaguar, the FBI didn't merely mishandle the case, they erected a false front. She tore into the Bureau's widely circulated suspect photo, claiming it doesn't line up with the real timeline of that night. And then came her nuclear allegation. The real shooter wasn't some mystery figure bolting through a crowd. Jaguar claimed they were actually seated in the same VIP box as Charlie when the shots rang out. If that's even partially true, it would obliterate the entire investigation and torch the credibility of every official statement so far. Jaguar framed it as the obvious question nobody's asking. Why would authorities push one narrative if the truth was sitting feet away from Kirk himself? Her answer was icy. She said the FBI was actively crafting a story to hide more than it revealed, soothing outrage and steering the conversation before it could erupt into chaos. She pointed to the timeline as her proof. Within mere hours of the shooting, the FBI named Tyler Robinson as the prime suspect, blasting out a photo they said showed him fleeing the scene. Robinson's own father turned him in, with Utah's governor standing right there, after investigators allegedly produced screenshots of a Discord confession. But then came the shocker. Discord publicly denied that any such confession ever existed on its platform. That single denial cracked the official story like a glass window under a hammer. If that confession never existed, Jaguar demanded, what else might have been fabricated or exaggerated? She argued this wasn't incompetence. It was a deliberate spoon-feeding of a pacifying narrative designed to corral public anger and control the debate. And now that contradiction is ripping across the internet, fueling the idea that the truth behind Charlie Kirk's death is far darker and far closer than anyone dared imagine. Jaguar Wright's latest claims didn't just stir the pot, they dragged the mainstream into the maelstrom. Once her accusations about the FBI's suspect photo and the alleged fake Discord confession went viral, the media could no longer pretend it wasn't happening. Suddenly, anchors, pundits, and political insiders were forced to weigh in, each one trying to decide, is Jaguar reckless? Or is she pulling back the curtain on something terrifyingly real? Cable news went into overdrive, running split screens that told two completely different stories. On one side, FBI officials doubled down on their airtight narrative. On the other, clips of Jaguar Wright hammering inconsistencies played like a highlight reel. Commentators tried to dismiss her as a conspiracy magnet, but their pushback backfired. Every time her name left their lips, social media exploded with searches for her deleted video. Political voices couldn't resist diving into the chaos. Some blasted Jaguar, accusing her of exploiting grief, and warned her commentary could derail the investigation. But others, especially longtime critics of federal agencies, echoed her demands for transparency, pressing for answers about how exactly the FBI gathered its so-called evidence. Even a handful of former intelligence officers popped up on talk shows, cautiously admitting that contradictions in the timeline deserve clarification. That single phrase was enough to send the online crowd into a frenzy, convinced Jaguar had cracked open a truth the establishment was scrambling to bury. Meanwhile, the internet was drowning in edits, memes, and breakdowns. Frame-by-frame analysts dissected the FBI's photo of Tyler Robinson, claiming the lighting, angles, and clarity didn't match the scene. Amateur sleuths questioned how Robinson's alleged Discord confession vanished without a trace, turning the proof into a running joke. Memes mocked the missing evidence with captions like, "Confession? What confession?" The harder officials denied, the more people lined up behind Jaguar. For Erica Kirk, already scorched by Jaguar's earlier intelligence plant allegations, this new twist only tightened the noose of scrutiny. Commentators speculated openly about whether she, too, had been pressured into silence while the FBI massaged the story. To Jaguar's followers, it all looked like one big puzzle snapping into place. A widow reading from a script, an investigation with holes, and officials hustling to glue together a narrative before the questions got too loud. At this point, Jaguar Wright wasn't just one voice in the noise. She had become the banner for a full-blown movement demanding receipts. Every denial from the authorities, every contradiction, every awkward silence only made her story echo louder. When you accept what the media hands you without asking questions, you become part of the cover-up, Jaguar declared, slicing through the noise like a blade. She tied Charlie Kirk's killing to a broader pattern. The way coverage of Israel, Gaza, and U.S. foreign policy gets softened, sanitized, and filtered through selective leaks. To her, Kirk's assassination has been swallowed by that same machinery of media manipulation. Uncomfortable truths scrubbed away, swapped for a cleaner, simpler narrative designed to keep the public pacified. Jaguar called on her audience audience to resist the spoon-fed storyline, to rip apart the FBI's timeline, and to demand answers about how quickly the official version was locked in stone. Whether people see her as reckless or righteous, she has planted herself as a voice of defiance in a culture obsessed with conformity. And her haunting question lingers in the air like smoke after a fire. What if the story we've been told isn't the story that really happened? And Jaguar isn't out here screaming into the void. She's got unexpected backup. Candace Owens, once one of Charlie Kirk's closest allies, is now echoing her doubts with fire of her own. Owens was stunned by what she called glaring flaws in the evidence, especially the blurry stills and shaky clips investigators pushed as proof. How is it possible, she asked, that at a university with between 1,200 and 1,800 cameras, we only get these low-quality images? Her point was savage. With that many surveillance systems rolling, crystal-clear footage should exist. The absence of it, she argued, screams suspicion. Owens didn't stop there. She accused unnamed figures of twisting Kirk's legacy for their own gain. She zeroed in on media coverage of a letter Charlie had sent to Israel's prime minister. According to her, outlets cherry-picked the lines that painted him as blindly loyal to Israel, while cutting out the passages where he warned against foreign influence in American politics. To Owens, that wasn't lazy journalism. It was a surgical rewrite, a deliberate distortion meant to bury the parts that made powerful people uncomfortable. Jaguar, meanwhile, kept pounding away at the crime scene itself. She demanded answers about how anyone could waltz into a packed university auditorium carrying a rifle without setting off alarms. How was that weapon smuggled past security, staff, and hundreds of students without anyone noticing a thing? She circled back to the blood spatter, or the strange lack of it. If Kirk was hit at close range in a tight seating area, why weren't audience members drenched? Why do the released images clash so violently with physics and eyewitness expectations? To Jaguar, the visuals don't just look suspicious, they scream cover-up. Now, the two women, Jaguar and Owens, have become a combustible chorus. Their styles may clash, but their message is unified. The FBI's timeline is riddled with contradictions, and the media's portrayal is dangerously incomplete. From surveillance blind spots to conflicting evidence, from political distortions to suspiciously neat narratives, they've shaken the public's trust in what was supposed to be an open and shut case. And the fallout? A growing wave of unease. Whether you see their accusations as bold truth-telling or reckless speculation, one thing is undeniable. The questions they've raised make it clear Charlie Kirk's death may not be about one man's murder at all. It may be about politics, power, and forces moving in the shadows that the public was never supposed to notice. So now I'm turning it over to you. What do you think is really going on? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, share this video with everyone you know, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest tea. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. See you on the next one.